guys, welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
G'day.
And today we're reviewing a very old, very interesting film called, what's that title called?
Well, it's called Snow White, A Tale of Terror. Also, it's known as Snow White in the Black Forest, and that was done in 1997, and it's a horror.
Woo! Yes, and it's really an awesome movie. So let's get started, and I'll give you the synopsis of this film.
Well, can I just say one or two things first before we get into the synopsises?
Yes, we will.
The director was Michael Cohen, C-O-H-N, and the producer was a Tom Engelman. And I don't know either of them from previous movies we've looked at. I don't know what their experience is. I couldn't find them on the internet. So your guess is as good as mine. But this, believe it or not, guys, we've been doing Aliens recently, and Sigourney Weaver has been in Alien in the past 3 Aliens, Alien 2,
Yes.
Alien 3. And lo and behold,
Guess what?
the lead role in this one is Sigourney Weaver. And she's partnered in this one with Sam Neill,
Yes.
and a lady called Monica Keena and Gil Bellows, plus a cast of probably not
Thousands.
1,000. No, not 1,000, but yeah, a good supporting cast.
Yeah, and the biggest thing about this movie is that Sigourney Weaver, she plays the evil queen.
Actually, she plays the role quite well. She's an attractive woman. She's elegant in her own way. And when she does the evil bit, I couldn't see it anywhere. But that old crone at the end where she was, I think that was Sigourney in makeup. So the makeup was exceptional.
Ooh, very.
It really
So
had me fooled.
let's start at the beginning of this movie.
Good place to start, hey.
So it starts off with Frederick Hoffman and his lady love, Lilly.
Liliana?
Liliana. And they're just driving through the country in
a carriage.
In the carriage in a snowy weather, and somehow they get into a carriage accident.
And that rolls over, and these wolves come out, and they gobble up the driver and stuff, and and Liana is damaged. So
yes,
what
and
next?
she's sort of in pregnant mode.
She's almost due to have a baby, but she gets hurt. So
and so she asks Frederick to take his knife and
do a cesarean section on it. They wouldn't have called it a cesarean section, but save my baby. I think she says something like that.
Yeah, she does. And they name the baby after her dying mother, so
Lily.
it was nice.
Lovely.
Yes,
So her name's not really Snow White, is it?
Yeah.
No.
But it has a Snow White theme to it, just so you know.
Yeah, it is Snow White, but it's not called Snow White like in all the kiddies' cartoons and all the other ones. It's called, hello, Snow White, how are you? Well, stop calling me bloody Snow White. My name is Lilly. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so Lily is a nice little girl, bit mischievous.
Mischievous, how old do you think she was? About 5 or 6?
I would say about 9.
A bit older, yeah.
Considering
maybe 8, 9.
The years after that move, that's...
Well, it didn't say how many years.
No, I guess not. But I often participated that it was 9 years later after.
Well, that was a pregnancy after that, so she would have been about 16 then.
Yeah, we're rushing ahead. So she's a mischief girl, and she heard from her father that he's gonna get remarried to another woman.
Which is Sigourney Weaver.
And her name is Claudia.
Claudia, that's correct. Yeah,
in this movie?
Claudia something or other.
Yeah.
Now she's going to become Hoffman.
Yes. So she brings along with her her mirror that belonged to her late mother.
Fancy that.
And her brother Gustav, who just happens to be mute.
Yeah, and there's other little magic tricks too to entertain the children.
Yes, and she tries to be as nice to her stepdaughter as possible, but she doesn't.
But Lily doesn't like her.
No.
Maybe she can sense something. Kids are like that sometimes.
Who knows?
I don't like this person. Or maybe she's thinking that no one's going to replace her mother.
And on the day of the wedding, night of the wedding, when they're about to do whatever. Lily gets into trouble.
Oh, wait. I have to explain it because, see, in this movie, they had a marriage and they went to the bedchamber to consummate their marriage, and they had the priest and whatever in there blessing their union and whatever. And Lily comes in there and she's far from impressed, and she throws a glass of drink over Claudia's face or something rather, and then runs out of the room. Is that right?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
So she runs. Her nursemaid is following her, hot pursuit, and she ends up in Claudia's room, and she hides under the bed. While her nursemaid is looking for her, she somehow looks into Claudia's mirror and gets the fright of her life that we won't tell
she
you
does
about.
because it kills her.
Yeah, something that kind of shocks her into a horrible heart attack or
Yes,
whatever.
What a way to go. That look
Yeah.
on her face.
Yeah.
Something wasn't right.
So a few years later, I anticipate probably 9 or 10 years of age.
But
years
about
later.
9 years later, she
Yeah. So by now, Lily is like 20 or 21 years of age.
Depending how old she was when
Depending
she was
on
a
how old
baby.
she
So
was.
let's say if she's 6 and 9 years old, she's 15 or 16.
Yeah, and by this time, Claudia is already pregnant with and 9 months pregnant.
Took
So
9 years to make a baby. No IVF back in those days, folks.
yeah, and who knows how long they were trying and how many times they've probably lost out.
Once a day and twice on Sundays.
Yeah. Anyway, Hoffman is hoping against hope that it will be a boy, considering back what happens back
And
then.
it was. However,
Yeah, but we won't get into that part just yet.
we're getting close.
So, on the eve of a great party they were going to have, Claudia gives Lily an old dress that she wore
nice
when
old
she
dress.
was a kid, but Lily feels like she wants to wear something that makes her look like
A
an
woman,
adult.
Because she was. She's probably 16 or 17 years old, probably.
Oh, who knows?
My guess.
My guess,
Yeah.
too.
She's coming of age, leaving childhood behind and becoming a fine young lady.
Yeah, but I think no one sees it that way because Claudia is wearing lots of fashionable gowns while
As one would expect.
Lily is wearing stuff that may depict her as a child.
But she's not.
Yeah.
She definitely is not a child.
Yeah, so Lily goes up to the
Hubba,
attic and gets a outfit from her birth mother's collection.
And she comes downstairs
Ew.
dressed in one of her real mother's old gowns, and
Yeah.
she steals the show, doesn't she?
Yeah, well, yeah, quite. Her dad was a little shocked at first, but then he kind of comes around and thinks how much she's very proud of how much she looks like his
dead
old
wife, yeah. And it took him back and made him feel really, really happy. And he danced with his daughter.
Yeah.
However,
Claudia goes
was
into
far
early
from
labor.
impressed. She went into meltdown a little bit, and yes, she went into labor. Collapsed? Didn't she collapse?
Yeah, she collapsed,
Yeah,
and
she
then
collapsed
she
on
went
the floor,
to
went
labor.
into early labor and stuff.
Yeah, and the doctor, Dr. Peter.
Gutenberg. After the press, Gutenberg, isn't it?
Yeah,
Gutenberg. That's right.
Yes, and he's played by.
Didn't write his name down here in front of me.
Yeah, and he's played by David Conrad.
David. Yeah, I think David Conrad. I think. Yeah.
So-
That rings a bell.
So he reminds me a little bit of Scott Speedman from Underworld, because that's what he makes me think of every
The
time I
guy
look
played
at his
Michael,
face.
was it?
Yes. So anyway, as we're going on, he goes on and says to Hoffman, "Guess what? Your wife cannot have another
Well,
baby."
Yeah, the wife was saved. The baby died, but she can't have any more kitties.
What a drag. Yeah, it's a bit sad when you think about it.
Shame.
And of course, she soon somehow finds out her mirror starts talking to her, and telling her that who's responsible for her miscarriage and her lack of beautiness.
Hey, there's one funny thing about this. In all the other movies, it's like, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? None of that sort of rubbish is in this movie. It's like, hey, this is a really nasty, controlling mirror. And I would say it's probably pretty much in line with the original storyline, which was an adult fantasy, not a kiddie's fantasy.
Yes,
so
exactly.
it was tamed down a bit. So this might be close to the original thing. Was Brothers Grimm doing this one?
Yeah, Brothers
Yeah,
Grimm.
I think they actually made it as adult romance, horror, scary sort of thing, a tale to tell around the table at night. So yeah, ooh, scary mirror. Ooh.
Yes, so she tells her that the persons who to blame are Lily and her dad, and maybe the doctor. I think when I
Well,
think
she
about
blamed everybody. It's
she
not,
blamed everybody.
It's not her fault.
Yeah, so technically, the only thought she has is her dead baby and about her looks vanishing after her pregnancy.
Well, and who looks like they walked out of a beauty parlour 5 minutes after they've had a baby?
Yeah.
Honestly, ladies.
Yeah, been to. I mean, I've been to say I've been to my sister's when she goes to hospital, and she's not. Well, she's of course fine, but
But
after
she looked like she's been run over by a truck.
don't
She
be
looked pretty
rude.
bad. No, she did. She was all raggedy and sweaty and tired and worn
Yeah,
out. And
no
a
one.
little bit,
No one is very is.
Ladies,
is,
you know what I mean.
yeah, no one is 100% beautiful after pregnancy.
Oh, they're always beautiful, but they don't. Yeah, but
But
you're
still,
not going to look your best, are you?
no, of course not. You'd be sweating, hair's tangled a bit
Yeah.
for hours and hours of pregnancy.
Exhausted,
and
all the above.
all the above.
Yeah, and so it wouldn't be a fun time
Yeah.
for her.
So anyway,
Yeah.
she starts hearing the voices in the mirror, and the mirror shows her what she wants to see. She looks beautiful in the mirror, like what she wants to be.
Yeah, a little bit like the mirror in Harry Potter. You look at it too long, you see what you want to see, not what's really there.
Yeah. So the mirror is showing her what she wants to see, not what she looks like.
Yeah.
So you understand.
The mirror lied.
Well, of course, it does. The mirrors sometimes lie. Sometimes. That's
You can never trust the mirror,
That's
honestly.
the sort of the what's implied in this movie.
I look in the mirror every morning and say, that's not me. An
Yeah.
ugly old man. No, he's
So-
bald. No, but
So,
sorry.
So, Lily comes up to her, telling her the next morning to bury the hatchet and hopes to start again with her stepmom.
And try to make amends. Isn't that lovely? What a sweet girl she is.
Yeah, but Claudia is far from forgiving of what she did
But she
or didn't do.
pretends to be
Or didn't do.
forgiving. Is it, oh, okay, that's fine, blah,
So,
blah, blah.
yeah. So Lily goes out with her friend Peter, whom she has a crush on, I think.
The doctor guy,
Yeah,
Peter
who
Guggenheim,
was the one who
Guggenberg, yeah.
who helped with the pregnancy, and he proposes marriage to her.
And she said yes.
Yes.
With a big smile on her little face.
Yes,
so
and
pretty,
he goes off to
tell her daddy
sell with her dad.
of his intentions, to
Mm-hmm.
get his approval and all the, as one would back in those days.
Yes, so Lily just stays in the forest for say a bit, and
Yeah,
then
'cause-
she sees Gustav there.
Lurking.
Lurking, and he pulls out a dagger and he charges at her, and Lily, being very smart, runs for her life.
Well, one would. I mean, yeah.
Yes.
So, yes, he runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs.
Yes,
And
runs,
she falls
runs.
down a hill and goes straight down a rabbit hole like Alice in Wonderland.
No.
No. Well, she fell in a hole.
Yeah, she fell into a hole, and Gustav, failing in his attempt of killing her or whatever, goes to a pig farm and kills a pig.
A boar or a pig or something, yeah.
And well, you get the story if
and
you
he's-
watch the movie.
Yeah, and he slices and dices it and cuts the heart out, and he presents the heart to Claudia to say, I have killed her. Well, he didn't say that because he can't talk.
He can't
but,
talk.
But
But
he hands it to her, yeah.
Yeah, and she doesn't look at the leftover bits because she said put the leftover bits into
the
the stew
stew
pot
tonight.
so she can
Let everyone
enjoy.
have a nibble.
Yes. So Lily continues on through the forest and soon comes to a monastery,
An old church.
an old
I think,
church,
yeah, it was
abandoned monastery.
one.
I mean,
Or a church or monastery, but yeah,
Yeah.
the roof's been caved in, but it had been.
yeah. So she goes there. She stays there for a bit, and I know what you guys are thinking. 7 dwarfs? No,
Now, this is a tricky bit.
quite.
These are the tallest dwarves I've ever seen. However, there was one there.
1 dwarf, but out of 6 men. So you know.
Well, see, back in the olden days when I wrote the story, maybe there weren't dwarves in it. Maybe that was the kiddies' version. Ever thought of that?
Uh-huh.
So, yes.
So the men see her, and they're not as friendly as you make out at the beginning when they see her for the first time. they see her and they see
They
her
thought
as
it was a problem.
yes,
Yeah.
and see her as a means of probably one of them wanted to ransom her and maybe sexually advances
Well,
on her too.
sample a bit of the wares before he gave it back to Daddy.
Yes, and one of them named Will. His real name is Gil.
Gil something or other. Gil Bellows.
Gil Bellows.
Yeah.
So, as Will, he goes to many lengths to protect Lily from being ravished or hurt.
Yeah.
So,
Or raped, anything. Yeah,
yes, he kind of shows a nice tenderness
even though he's a
towards
rough
her.
guy. No, not rough. Not rough in a nasty way, but rough. He's a working class guy.
Yeah,
Who's
I
been
imagine.
forced to live on the land. A bit
Yeah.
like Robin Hood and the Merry Men sort of thing.
Yeah.
They were outcast from society.
Yeah, one of them I think is ex-priest and
Or
who's
a monk
among
or
them
something.
too.
Yeah, one of those. He had a robe on.
Yeah, you see him wearing
One
a robe.
was a dwarf. I noticed that.
Yeah, and you may have seen, if you've seen the movie, you may have seen the monk wearing a crucifix, one of those long ones that you see on people in the Middle Ages that would have worn.
Yeah, yeah.
And probably would have had one of those weird haircuts.
Probably. I don't think he didn't have a weird haircut, this one. Maybe he couldn't afford the shave because he's broke.
Yes, so as I was saying, the men are not so welcoming, but a few of them start softening toward her. One of them even offers her a knife, telling her that the world is a dangerous place. Keep this with you.
And he was a nice man.
Yes, and even though Lily stays at the monastery for a few minutes, she decides to go with them.
Bad move.
Yes. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Claudia realizes that she didn't get her heart's desire by realizing Lily's heart is not.
Heart's desire. That's very good. Hey, by the way, let's get back into somehow or other. She had a pet crow, and I think she's using the crow to find out where Lily is, and she finds her with the guys in the mine, doesn't she? That's relevant to the next part of the story.
Yeah, so, as I said before...
didn't get a heart's desire.
Yeah, so Claudia gets really angry, and she takes her revenge her anger out on her brother, Gustav, and has him killed, using her magic.
Yes, he bewitched him somehow or other. He hallucinated, and he was stressing out, and he ended up killing himself.
Yeah, and
wasn't his fault. He was manipulated.
And Hoffman and what's the name of the doctor again? Peter.
Peter Gutenberg.
Yes, so Peter, they continue looking for Lily, but with no success, and somehow Hoffman gets really damaged during their search.
Yeah,
and
he falls off his horse and breaks a leg or something.
Yeah, and they had to bring him back to the castle. And
please keep searching for my daughter. Oh, I don't feel very well.
Yes, so at that time, Claudia is the one in charge. Like, now her husband is got a broken leg, and no one else is going to be able to continue the search without someone to guide them.
So they went looking. They never found her though. They're pretty lame,
But they don't know where.
She didn't leave a trail of breadcrumbs anywhere. Honestly.
Yeah, well, so let's bring. Now we're going back to Lily. Now Lily doesn't want to stay around near the monastery alone, so she follows the miners, the ex-cons to the mine, and then you can bring up the evil.
Now, cackle. Claudia, in her attempts to take care of Lily, cast some sort of spell. I won't go into the spell part, this will take too long.
Too long.
But the idea was to make the mine cave in and kill Lily.
Yes.
Guess what? The mine caved in. One or two of the miners died.
Well, one of them anyway.
Well, one of them died. And Will, lovely, he saves her and drags her out of there.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I think Claudia thinks initially that she has done her deed and she's entombed in the earth.
Yeah.
Not so.
Yeah, and I think in the next scene we soon find her. I don't know what she does, but somehow she casts a spell on all the servants and everyone living in the castle to, become like zombies in this movie. Don't ask me how. It just happens, and and it continues like that throughout the movie, and we don't know how they undo the spell on that and on them either. Yes.
Spooky. What if it had something to do with the stew?
Maybe. She says she gave it to her husband.
It's might get everybody else as well, but she might have added something else to it. Because if it was a big pot of stew, the other people would have eaten it as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Maybe a servant or two.
Yeah, and to put them all under a spell, and they're all bewitched. They sat around like statues almost.
Yeah, like they had just been received. They look like they had like boils and sores over their face for some reason.
Oh yeah, it did look very good.
Like they would develop the plague or something. Yeah, and that brings us back to Peter, who comes
Dr.
around.
Gutenberg comes back, and the place looks almost abandoned. But he finds Claudia, and she tells him some tale about we had all the people had this, that, and the other, the Black Death. So you're right to send them away. He didn't look around. He didn't know they were sitting in there in a corridor and other places. He didn't look. What a very astute observation that was.
Yeah, most of them just sat there like statues, waiting for something to happen. Not happen. Yeah, and she attempted to seduce poor Peter.
Well, she I don't know if she tried to seduce him, but she tried to manipulate him by flirting with him and kissing him and stuff. And then she says, "You'll make her Liliana a fine husband one day. Please go and find her." So she sounded like a caring person, even though she's been a bit sleaze kissing him. But the thing is, obviously, she wants Lily to come back to the castle so she can get rid of her.
Yeah.
She's a real people
Swinger.
pleaser.
Yes. Yes. So, as the story progresses, Lily's still in the woods, and somehow Claudius continues her tricks to try to kill her.
Yeah, another enchantment.
Yes.
She makes this big storm come up, and all these trees start falling down.
Wait.
Oh no!
Before that happens,
Before that, sorry.
Lily hears her father's voice in the wind.
That was part of the enchantment.
And she begins to run towards the voice, trying to look left and right and try to find her father.
And all the friendly mining guys decide to follow. There were 4 or 5 left, or something or other.
Let me see.
There's Lars, Will, and the dwarf, and the other guy.
About 5, I think.
Yeah, whatever. And they all went down there following her to make sure she didn't get in any trouble, because they don't trust people, and so they said, this doesn't look right. So they followed her, and then this whirlwind sort of storm came up, and trees started falling down trying to squash her.
Yeah.
And then we had to do cutaways back to the castle, and where Claudia was knocking statues over in the hallway,
hinting that might be
she was making
the trees.
Yeah, the trees. So she had this enchantment going or whatever,
which does explain, fits in with why she makes all the staff turn to zombies, so they won't report weird behaviour happening in the castle.
I've worked with people like that, you know. I just sit down there and be staring off into space, just like the people in this movie.
Yes, so
they call them security guards. Right.
Yeah, so while this is happening, one of the miner guys, he uses a slingshot and sees the raven that's spying on them, and
he suspects it's a raven who's not a raven.
Yes.
He's not in part of the problem, so he kills it, and Claudia feels the pain. So yeah, there was a link. He got the right crow, or raven, or whichever you want to call it.
Yeah, but how they worked out it was the raven that might be that could be the link to this whole thing.
I know, it's holding a mobile phone. I had to talk to her somehow.
Yeah, well, but then again, there's a lot of people would tell me in filmmaking, do not question why this happens.
Actually, when we saw the Ed Wood movie, someone challenged him about something. He said suspension of disbelief. Just roll with it.
Yes. So, suspense of disbelief comes to mind to this.
Disbelief. Yes. Don't disbelieve it, just enjoy it. So.
Yes, so don't question it.
Exactly.
Yes, so...
However.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go on.
So, Lily and Will start getting close, and she discovers from one of the miner guys, he explains that he often had nightmares,
About his family,
about
was
his
it?
family who were killed because he would refuse to help
The-
out to.
The Crusaders were going off to fight, go to the Holy Land and fight a battle or do something.
Yes.
And he refused to join them, so they killed his family and scarred his face and
Yeah.
whipped his back because he had lots of scars. We found out later
Yeah,
on.
instead
Yeah.
he may have been whipped maliciously until.
By good Christian men.
Yeah.
No wonder the people in the Middle East don't like the Christian Crusader guys and their descendants come into their country.
Yeah, well, it is a sad thing to think about.
Yeah, not really good. They
No, it
rape,
isn't.
pillage, and plunder, just like the Vikings. Yeah.
Yeah, so Lily soon warms up to Will, and they even kiss each other in the later on, kind of romantically. And she starts to warm up to the fact how much Will is different from Peter.
Yeah, he's a real man, not a cardboard cutout. No. He's real. He's probably an earthy. He's working class. Yeah,
Yes, and he's willing
he's
to.
just a really nice guy who lives a rough existence.
Yeah, and he's willing to provide for her. Even shelter for her.
Yeah, he looked after her. So she sees that her sheltered life kept away from real people.
Quite real people and all that stuff.
Real normal people. The upper class. We won't go into things like Jane Eyre and stuff and all the stupid people having house parties.
No.
But that class distinction was a little bit prevalent that way.
Yes.
Because those mining guys made a comment about the likes of her father are the ones who cause them to lose their homes and different things and get punished, and they're forced to live in the church.
Yeah, forced the abandoned church.
Yeah, the abandoned church because they were beaten and the houses taken away and families killed and stuff. Yeah, so they didn't like the hierarchy whatsoever.
Quite. Yeah, so now we're getting to the interesting bit to our story where Claudia is instructed by the mirror to be able to resurrect her baby.
Yeah.
Eerie, huh?
But about the same time, that's when she just casts that spell on herself to go and find Lilly as an evil old crone.
Yes.
Hey, and now, I was talking to Sarah about this earlier on, that the makeup, I believe it was Sigourney Weaver playing the hideous old crone. And the makeup, I think the only thing I could pick up was something in her eyes. The rest of it, you would not have picked up.
Yeah, well, that's.
No, you wouldn't have picked it. I mean, it was a great makeup job. It looked natural. It looked real, whether they used latex on the face or whatever. The teeth were done. Everything was done. She looked really, really bad.
In a good way.
No, from no, she looked bad. She's supposed to look horrible and decrepit, and she looked really bad. And she's supposed to look that way. Not, oh, I've just come out of a hairdressing salon and I'm a bit raggedy. No, she looked really bad, which is great for the movie.
Yeah, she looked very evil.
She did. Hideous. I wouldn't touch her. I wouldn't have gone anywhere near her. But however, that would destroy the plot.
Yes, so she offers her an apple, and they talk a bit, mostly about how Lily's in love and her feelings for Will.
Certain young man.
Even though we don't mention names, but I imagine Will comes to mind when I think about it.
Well, there you go then.
Yes, so she eats the apple and softly chokes. And
plonk on the ground.
And pops on the ground. And Peter comes around eventually, and he.
Wait, doesn't Will finds her first, doesn't he?
Yeah, he finds her.
And then he takes her back to, and then Peter shows up a little bit later on and tries to fix her up, and he says, no, she's starting to stiffen, which would indicate to me rigor mortis is setting in. Now, that's a really interesting thing. If rigor mortis is setting in, that means everything is closing down, which means she is dead. Now, that's the only mistake in the film. Because if the rigor mortis setting in, she could not come back to life because she is really pushing out the flowers. She has gone.
Yeah, and so I know this part doesn't make sense to me more than ever, but they decide to bury her while in a special glass coffin. And usually in the original story, they didn't put her in the earth. They
put
kind
her
of
on display.
They
you
put
know.
her on display
Yeah.
in a glass
It's
coffin.
just too beautiful to bury.
And when you think about it, if you put so much as dirt on a glass coffin,
You
it
might break
will
it.
break.
Yeah, it looked like it was something like, in old
Romantically
buildings.
as it may sound.
The lead light and stuff, it's only the lead and copper holding it together. It's not very strong. So you put the dirt on, it just smash on anyway.
Yeah.
So if she wasn't dead when she went in there, she should have been dead a few minutes later.
All the time when Lily's in a conscious mode, she's sort of in a. It's sort of more like a coma.
Like a coma. She can't move. She looks like she's dead. No, there's no noticeable breathing or anything, but her brain's still active.
Yeah, like she's paralyzed, if that's the word.
Totally.
Yeah, so that.
I've been that way. If you're honest.
A lot of people would probably mistake paralyzing with being dead.
Well, it has been done over the years. People get buried accidentally because they go into a coma-like state. That's another movie we can do, premature burial later on.
We can do that
Refrain
later on.
Milan. No, but
So
yeah.
we're going away. So when they were putting some dirt on the coffin, her eyes popped open.
Yeah, Will saw it through the glass. He saw her eyes flicker open.
Yeah, and he starts breaking open the glass coffin.
And then drags her out.
Yeah, and Peter's like saying, "Don't touch her. She's dead. You're disrespectful." All that stuff.
Now, he didn't know CPR or anything, so he picked her up and shook the crap out.
Yeah.
He shook her a lot.
Yeah, he kept yelling, breathe.
And all of a sudden, he dislodged the apple. She coughed out, and then she started to move, which means, obviously, if she sucked the apple right down to her guts, she wouldn't have been saved. Of course, it was stuck in her throat.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, she only got a little bit.
Yeah, and of course, Peter didn't realize this. He was such an idiot.
Yeah, hey, if you get sick, don't call this Peter Gutenberg. He's not a very good doctor.
Yeah, so Peter is about to take her back to the castle and all that stuff, and he offers Will money as a thank you, whatever.
For saving his woman.
But Will doesn't look like
he didn't want to take it.
He didn't want to take it because he felt like it would.
He loved her.
Lily's life is more important to him than the money.
Yeah, he loved her.
Imagine he would have given the money to his friends, and there you have it.
Possibly. He never gave it back. You notice that?
Yeah, I noticed that.
He was thrown at him, then he walked away with the money. Didn't throw it back at him. That would have been good. Throw it back at him.
Yeah, I would have done the same myself.
Yeah, that would have been really nice. I love this lady. I don't want your stinking money.
I like to think I like to think in the scene he may have given the money to his friends and just walked on out there because he felt like he's losing someone more important
somebody
than
he fell in love with. This beautiful young woman who's just come of age.
This brings me back to that Claudia is about to resurrect her baby. So she needs two things. She needs Hoffman's seed.
For those who are not quite sure, she needs some of his sperm.
And she needs some of his blood, or a lot of blood, to bathe the baby in. Like in Elizabeth Bathory, if you get my meaning.
To reanimate the dead baby,
Yeah, so she needs those two things. Yeah. So she drags Hoffman into the church.
She goes to have sex with him first.
Yes, she does.
She goes there and has wild, passionate sex with her hubby, who's lying flat on his back, not very good. And did that bit, and then next minute later, she's dragging him into the chapel, feet first, and hung him up upside down, strapped to a crucifix.
Yeah, think of Saint Peter style.
Yep, and she had planned to obviously cut his throat and drain his blood for the baby.
Yes.
Roll on, Sarah.
So we're back to Lily and Peter finally arriving at the castle, and I do notice at once is Lily's mother's gravestone is very badly damaged. Like, it has a statue of an angel on it, and the angel's head and hands and part of the wing have been broken.
So someone would be very malicious.
Yes, meaning Claudia's been doing something very naughty.
Bit of housekeeping.
Yes. But then again, she's done a lot of that in this movie.
She has. Yeah, she's trashed the place totally.
And at this moment, Will comes by and offers his help again, which is great.
Well, he must have travelled. He must have been light of foot because the other two are on a horse.
Yeah, but
he beat them there.
But
pretty much.
What did we say before about suspension of disbelief?
Suspension of disbelief.
Just don't question it.
I know, but it's good to know.
It makes a good story. as I say, in the past.
Yeah, never let the truth get in the way of a good story, hey? No,
Quite.
okay.
So so they go inside the castle, and Peter goes off and finds Lady Hoffman, Claudia, whatever her name is, and while Lily tries to search for her dad. And they don't get really far until she comes across her dog, who...
Yeah, he looks like he's a demon now. He got all
he
these
starts
shiny
acting,
eyes and stuff. And he attacks Will, and Will... What, did Will kill him?
No, I mean the dog. I mean they used a torch that Lily had
burnt the dog or
and
something.
burned the dog.
They might have broken the spell, maybe. I don't know.
I'm not sure, really, to be honest.
Sometimes pain can actually break a spell.
I heard of that. I remember
fire.
that from Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom.
Yeah, when he had the time little short round, and he burned him in the tummy. Yeah.
Ouch!
Ouch! Oh, I'm okay, kid. Yeah.
Yes, that was cool. So I'm back to the story.
He likes Harrison Ford.
Well, if we can, we'll do a review of one of his movies one day.
They're more action adventure than fantasy or horror.
There's a bit of fantasy in it.
But we might make an exception to the odd good movie one day.
Yeah. Bear in mind, it's still a fantasy. Dealing with mythical things like ghosts appearing inside the Ark of the Covenant.
Well, yes,
unbelievable stuff.
You could say any fictional movie is a bit of a fantasy. So you stretch the imagination here. But,
imagination is what we love, don't we, guys?
It's imagination.
Yes. Well, imagination is.
Don't you think it's magic?
So let's get back to the story. So, Lily goes in search of her father. They find him in the chapel or in church, and of course he's out of it, as I said.
Is he what?
Yes, after he's even though we didn't notice any cuts on him.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I was going to say Claudia was supposed to cut his throat or something, or drain some blood out of him.
Drain some blood out of him.
And I am going to jump to a bit later on. Just now, we didn't see a hole anywhere or any blood in his clothing or up his nose or coming out of his ears anywhere.
Yeah.
So he goes.
It was implied that she was going to use the knife and cut his throat.
Yeah. And she brought the baby back to life with some blood. What did you do? Get a runny nose? I mean, honestly.
Yeah. So.
Got better?
So Lily tells Will, take her dad out of there, to safety, while she goes and hunts for Claudia.
This is a woman's work. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So she's gonna take on the pedestal of fighting back, so to speak. So she takes a weapon and she goes up the stairs and confronts Claudia, and she notices right away the baby is alive.
You see the little hand come. That doesn't look very nice. That looks
it
looks like a little bit horror.
Yeah, it looks like it's very badly mutated.
Not mutated. Like it's been dead for a while.
Dead for a couple of days.
If anyone ever see Pet Cemetery, how they bring people back to life, it's like that. They're not quite right when they come back, and I think it's like a little demon in the blankets.
Yeah. Its fingers are. Instead of usual strong, quite chubby little fingers, they're like as skinny as a skeleton's fingers.
Almost, a little skin wrapped over them. That didn't look really good.
It did look.
This kid needs to see a doctor. Peter. Peter. We didn't say that Peter got killed before, did we?
Yes, let's say.
Yeah, Claudia found Peter and pushed him out a window.
Yeah, landing probably landing
that
really hard.
That was good for Will. Got rid of the competition.
Quite right.
What a way to go.
Yeah, well, Peter was not a brilliant man, to be honest.
He might have been a doctor, but he was a bit of a twit.
Yeah.
Upper class twits you see in some of the British comedy shows.
I get it.
He's one of those.
Yeah, he's a bit of an idiot, especially when if he was really Lily's one true love interest, he would have not have just accepted the fact she's dead. She would have just try to find out what's really wrong with her and try to find out what's wrong.
Her one true love is the only guy she met who was young enough to marry her. So, I've met one guy and he's the one. Oh, great, whoopee. Yeah. He didn't look too bad, but
yeah, but he's just.
But then she met the other guy. I said, "Well, he's not too bad." And she went into the city. She'd be amazed.
Yeah, but then again, Lily in this movie, Lily's confined to her home, meaning she has never been out of home. So to speak.
Yeah, it's a bit sad. Still like Hotel Transylvania, where the little girl was stuck inside the castle all the time. Yeah, can't go out there. The villagers will kill you. So she stayed inside the castle grounds. So what a life.
Yes. So, as I was saying,
So, yeah, carry on.
Lily confronts her stepmother and sees the thousands of mirrors. She starts crashing them, breaking them, and whatever. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of bad luck, isn't it?
Yes. Well, there's obviously some power there, and soon enough, Chloe has the upper hand by cutting her face, even though.
Oh, yeah, she picks up a shard of glass and marks Lily's face, so she's supposedly no longer beautiful. To me, she looked like a beautiful lady for Scarna face.
Yes.
So, it didn't do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and she then throws one of the torches onto the ground, and the place starts catching flame. And then Claudia was just briefly distracted by her baby's cries, who suddenly was starting to feel the horrible flames approaching him. And while Claudia is distracted, Lily picks up a dagger, and the mirror starts yelling out for her that, they're yelling out Claudia's name, and then Lily turns and sees the mirror, and she stabs right into it.
Right in the chest, and guess what? A little bit like
Dorian Gray.
The mirror got a stab in the chest, and so did Claudia.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's a close link, isn't it?
Somehow when I look at this bit, but then again, she's been asking the mirror for favors and tricks.
She said it was a mother's cupboard or something or other at the beginning of the movie. And you think, was it her mother's cupboard, and that was a mother was a witch and she had tied herself to the cupboard, or was that an ancient artifact, demon, if you will, that her mother used to use for her own? It never comes out in this sort of thing.
I mean,
where did the magic come from?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the place burns up, and Claudia's face becomes aging a bit.
It looked raggedy.
Yes, and soon enough, the glass starts to shatter in the mirror, and then boom. Yeah, the glass starts hitting her in Claudia's face.
That would not be nice. And then she catches fire.
Yes, she starts swirling around like she was a top on a
swirling dervish you see in some of the Middle Eastern countries. Yeah,
yes, she starts swirling around, fire catching on every part of her dress.
Then she falls onto the bed, and the bed collapses, and the roof caves in and stuff. And her and the baby are incinerated.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Now this gets the tricky bit we were talking about a few minutes ago before we started the podcast. Now she goes outside then, and Will is there with Daddy, and Daddy is starting to come around, and he's not that bad. How much blood did he lose?
I don't know.
I mean, if I'd lost a few pints of blood or a couple of litres of blood, I would not be feeling all that happy and chirpy.
Yeah, quite right.
And something else we were talking about before. All the servants that had been living and working inside the castle were there. We didn't mention them before, did we? When they went to the chapel to drain the blood, most of them were sitting there in a trance in the pews inside the chapel. Well, no one saved them, so all the
inhabitants
all the servants were incinerated. Claudia was incinerated. The baby was incinerated, and now they need a new house. But what?
That's not the point, Dad.
Oh, it's all burnt out, isn't it?
So we were discussing how after all the magic's been undone and the father's all better, like he's no longer in a trance.
In a trance or an enchantment.
The other servants are just going to be sitting there and slowly going to die?
They're a bunch of crispy critters by now.
Are they just dying, or are they going to somehow come out much later on?
It didn't look like they're going anywhere.
No.
And it does bring one thing to mind.
What?
Did he have adequate insurance cover? Well, honestly,
Yes, so you guys know, this movie never came out directly to online in the movie stream.
It didn't play at any of the pizza theatres. It didn't go to television. It went straight to, back in those days, videotape, and seeing it was about end of the century went a DVD about the same time, and it's had two reissues of the DVD, I believe, since then. But I don't know if it's ever actually been on TV.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever been aired.
Yeah, that's a shame. And this is not a B film, guys, just so you know.
It's a pretty good movie,
It's a pretty
actually.
good movie. It was well constructed. It was filmed on location in
Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia. Public.
And it had a really nice castle, because the outside shots were around the castle, I believe, in the forest around the castle, and in the castle itself. And I think it looked really, really good and effective. And the acting, obviously, Sam Neill was in it, and you had Sigourney Weaver and the other people. The actors were quite good, and
Yeah,
it was a good story.
It was a good
Why
story.
hasn't it appeared anywhere?
Yeah, it's a shame that. I mean, it showed a lot of promise and all that stuff. It's not unlike other movies that don't show up very promising, but this one was very promising.
It was good, yeah. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy. I mean, I don't like movies that are purely fantasy. I won't go into things like Baron Munchausen and different things. I mean, movies like that are just fantasy, and just goes on, and it gets to a stage where it gets very boring and you can't follow the story. But this here got fantasy, adventure, a little bit of action in it,
A little bit of
a bit
action
of love interest, and
a
it's
bit
a
of
really
horror.
good mix. Horror, obviously, but it had a good mix. I think that they should make more movies like this and get rid of the really weird stuff which isn't really marketable. This should have been even at a limited run at the theatre, and then hopefully do a syndicated run for the TV stations.
Yeah, at least.
Because it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it had a lot of promise, guys. Lots of promise.
Sam, you did good.
Yes, again.
Sigourney, you did good.
You did good too.
And the others, excellent work. I think.
And to the director,
What was his name?
Michael, we salute you.
He did a good job. And look, I normally rate things based on a whole package, not individual bits like some other people do. As a package, I think this had a good story, had good actors, the locations were good. Everything came together as a really good movie. Yes, it's probably not 100% a commercial movie that go through the theatre, but I don't judge movies on that along those lines. I said, is it a good movie or a bad movie, whether it went straight to DVD or to cinema or whatever. So yeah, getting on to that, you want to close off now and give it a rating?
Yeah, let's start rating this one. So how would you rate this one, Mike?
I often give good movies up around 9, and this would have to be up there too. 9. I would pull back a little bit only because, some parts were a little bit slow, but as a whole, I think it was really good. So, have to give it a 9. Easily a 9.
Agree.
9 out of 10, that is, not 9 out of 100. 9 out of 10.
Yes.
What do you reckon?
I reckon that it seems to be a pretty good movie too, and I agree with Mike here that I give it 9 out of 10 too.
There you go. That's 18 out of 20, folks. That's not too bad, actually. Yeah.
So, thanks for listening to us, guys. So, I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. All right, till then, I'll see you guys next time. Same bat time, same witch hour. Till then, unpleasant dreams. See you around, guys.